Hi. Oh, there you are. Hi. This is stream number 124. So, hope you guys had a great weekend. We just got back from a 4-day vacation. And I just thought I'd get back into the swing of things by working on the back end to my game. The game is a multiplayer RPG. And I am still setting up the back end server platform, so it's not playable yet. But to give you an idea of what it will look like, I have made a prototype app to test out some of the user interface. It looks like this. This prototype is made in the spirit of the old Atari game Gauntlet, and where you are controlling a hero and you battle monsters in a dungeon, throwing axes. You have to kill them before they get to you or they damage your health. You can pick up potions, which you can use to blow away lots of enemies at once. You can pick up food to increase your health. I'm going to use the potion here. Boom. I don't have any sound yet in this prototype, but I wanted to try out the graphic front end, which right now it's in Pixie.js, and I think I'm going to try out Phaser as an alternative, just to compare them. And I also wanted to try out the information I got from researching entity component systems, which is a technique to handle the data and logic in a game. So what I've settled on for now, and maybe not permanent because of possible performance issues, is all components are in the server as C++ simple structures, and all the game logic, all the systems are in Lua. And I decided to have that arrangement for now because it allows me to change the game logic without taking the server offline or rebuilding it. So the potential issue right now, which I'm kind of seeing now that I have this built as an unoptimized build, is that the performance might not be so great in Lua. Hey there, Rally Monkey. So anyway, this kind of gives you an idea of the look and feel of the game right now. This prototype is very simple. It's a single player, but imagine this kind of graphics only drawn better as I get better at that, and multiplayer, and more things you can do other than throw axes and pick up things. But it's basically going to be a tile-based 2D pixel art RPG kind of game. Yeah, so I'm gonna keep this up here in the background for anyone who has a question about what the game's gonna look like, because most of the day today I'm gonna be working on the back end stuff. So there are a few bugs that I need to work on. Because it's a multiplayer game and you'll be running the game client in your computer and the server will be running somewhere in the cloud, you have to log in to play the game. And right now I have some bugs in the login system. So for example, if well, not just the login system, but the profile system, which includes changing your password, changing your email, other things which I collectively call a profile. So right now, if the server gets a profile change, it blindly accepts whatever changes, including some fields that the client shouldn't be able to change. So we need to put a check on that. So the second thing is if two players simultaneously try to take the same name, the first player's record will be destroyed, which is bad. So we need to fix that. And another bug is right now if we have if the player tries to change their profile twice rapidly, so there's two change profile commands. Oh no, sorry, I misread this. This is if let's say you log in and then you ask to change your email, but you change it to the exact same thing. Right now, it's always going to append a command to the game to change your email, even though it didn't really change. So this was just a silly thing I wanted to fix. When you put a green background on your Twitch icon, it looks like it'll be more obvious. Yeah. So I did that because people were looking at the icon in Twitch and couldn't tell if I was online or offline because it was sort of a grayscale avatar to begin with, so I just made the background green. So now you can tell if I am online, it's green. If I'm offline, it's going to be gray. All right, so yeah, so this is a real big problem, allowing multiple logins from the same player at the same time from different clients because of the way commands are routed back to players. And it really doesn't make sense to be playing the game from more than one client simultaneously right now because it's only a single character game. Maybe later, if I allow players to have multiple characters, we could support dual boxing. I'm going to keep it simple for now. So we're just going to disallow multiple logins. So the game will basically be tracking which client every player is currently connected to. And that'll help in routing messages that are destined for certain players. And prevents a lot of issues, race conditions. If, let's say, the same player from two different clients asks for different things that collide, which one do you honor, right? Do you do first come, first serve, or do you do both? So I'm just going to keep it simple. You can only be logged in for one client at a time. And then this is sort of related, so I put it in for the plan today, that when you request a password reset, it should require a Recaptcha. So the Recaptcha is used basically to, hopefully everyone has encountered this before. Perhaps you hate it, but it's a easy to implement method of checking to see that the client is not scripted. Hey there, the Epic Unknown. Had a nice vacation? Yeah. It was sort of stressful, but the kids enjoyed it. We went snowboarding. I always get anxious about getting stuck in the snow, driving up and down and all that, but they had a great time. Snowboarding. There's a lot of snow. We went to Utah. So it ended kind of early because one of my kids got sick. He's sick. It's homesick today, so bummer. He actually was the first one that got sick with the flu last month. Anyway, yeah, so recap. Today I'm going to work on fixing bugs in the back-end profile system. Straight to lurk? Okay. Happy lurking. All right, so... Oh, I should go to the Trello. Forgot about the Trello. Here's a link to my Trello, by the way. I don't know if I have that in my stream panels yet or not. It's relatively new. I don't even have a browser window open. There we go, that'll fix it. Trello. I've been using this for now to track issues, although I might upgrade to Jira at some point when things get a little bit more crazy. So, oh, I should talk about the last stream I did on Thursday last week. I was porting game systems in the prototype to Lua. I actually finished that while during the off time during the weekend. So let me talk about that. I could show it off a little bit, and in the meantime, we'll mark it as archived. Yes. So it was pretty straightforward. Let me find it. Where was it? Back end. So a couple changes I had to make were when we call the Lua, we have to now also push a wrapper for the WebSocket back to the client because the render system in the game actually sends messages back to the client. I keep clicking the wrong window here. Boom. Boom. Okay. So render system is down here now. And it has to, at the very end, send the message back to the client to give it all the information to draw. So this WS is now a wrapper for a WebSocket, which we pass in here. And in addition, because the messages sent through WebSockets in the prototype and in the real game are right now JSON, I made a JSON wrapper. And it's a type of wrapper where you can actually, it has a constructor. So here we're constructing an empty JSON. And here we're, alternatively, there's a class method called parse, where you can take a string that's JSON for encoding and then parse it. Similar to JavaScript. So we're basically building this JSON object starting with just an empty render message with empty sprites, and then we're building all of this sprite space off of the current tile components, and then adding some information at the end, like the health, score, and potions for the hero, and then sending it to the player. So I had to add two wrappers, one for the WebSocket, which looks like its API is very simple. We connect it to Lua, and then whenever you have a WebSocket you want to give to Lua, you call that. And then JSON is similar. Actually, it's a lot simpler. JSON is completely used on the Lua end, and nothing talks to it directly from the C++ end. So all we need is to link it into Lua internally. That will hook up all of the meta table for Lua. With this special call meta method of the class, it lets you construct a JSON object, and then the indexer for the class lets you call class methods like add and parse. And then the instance methods themselves, garbage collector for finalizer or destructor, indexer, new indexer, string, and length. So for example, the indexer goes and actually indexes the actual JSON object in C++, and then depending on the type, it will return to Lua, the Lua equivalent. So if it's a Boolean, it does a Lua push Boolean. Floating point, push number. Integer, push integer. String, push L string. Null or invalid, you get a nil. For array and object, you get another inner JSON object. Right now I'm having it return by value and not by reference. So in other words, it makes a new wrapper with a new JSON value in it every time you get a internal object, which has a few ramifications. For example, we have to build up the sprite array and then add it to the or where is it? Where do we add it? Right here. We add it to the message at the end, which makes it a copy, which could be a performance issue. And yeah, the same thing with building these sprites. I think whenever this add the sprite to the sprites array is done, it actually makes a copy. So one thing I could do to improve this is to make it pass by reference, and then add would maybe move the sprite into the array. But it works. So that's what I did over the weekend. So all the systems now are in Lua. So we have the render system. The hunger system was there before. Pickup system was there before. Generation was there before. AI was there before. Movement was there before. Yeah, a lot of these I had already done. I think it was the weapons. Actually, I can't remember. I think it was the weapons system and the render system that I hadn't gotten to at the end of Thursday, so I basically added those. And so it's all here in Lua. So all the entire game logic for the prototype fits in about 456 lines of Lua, with some helpers here for doing basically basic collision and logic for whenever weapon strikes something, and creating a new monster. So all of this is in my GitHub, by the way, if you're interested in looking at it. The backend is called Iron Glove Backend, and the front end, which again looks like this, which is basically a Pixie.js app running on a very, very lightweight, very, very empty React app, is an iron-glove. Oh, Plague with Scissor. Oh no, your name is too long and it overflowed. But thank you for the sub, Playing with Scissors. You're awesome. Thank you for your support. Playing with Scissors is also... Oh, why did I just wave to stream elements? Oh, because... yeah. I guess I have to manually type this. Hey there, Playing with Scissors. Playing with Scissors is awesome because he is a moderator, both Adam's channel and mine. He helps out a lot with a lot of knowledge about Twitch and other things. And he's just an awesome guy. So if he ever streams, I will follow him and probably subscribe. But we'll wait and see. Today you cleaned your desk and found $11, so I get a quarter of it. Well, thank you very much, Playing with Scissors. I wish I could find $11 whenever I clean my desk. Yes, I just did read your sub message, and my reaction passed your question in the internet. So I hope you gave Adam another quarter of it. I was going to gift Freak Technic a sub to Adam's channel this morning, but I wasn't at my computer. But I noticed he was like the only one without a sub badge, and I felt bad. So if he hasn't resubbed by the end of the day, maybe tomorrow I'll give him a sub. Don't tell him. It's a secret. All right, so yeah, so I had finished. I have all the game logic now in Lua. It's not finalized because I don't know if it's going to pan out performance-wise. I could always do a mix like I was doing during the porting to Lua. So I had it where some of the systems could be in C++, others could be in Lua. And that way I could maybe make some of the systems that are more prototype, more in flux, like being decided, I could have them in Lua. And then once everything is settled, I could make it in C++. You have something better to gift Adam. It would be the gift of helping him market. I'm going to hopefully do what I can there. And we will help make Botland successful, right? Easy. Don't clean out my desk for a couple months. Yeah. The problem is I don't put money in my desk, so I don't think I'd find any. Okay, anyway. Enough showing off what I did over the weekend. I'm going to pick one of these to work on. I think we're going to do this one first. Don't blindly accept any profile changes requested by the user. And I did not have any more detailed notes. Let me just look and see where this is done. This would be in either the executor or the players. Let's look at the players first. So change profile. Actually, this needs to accept everything because it's also called internally. Money fell from your monitor stall. You don't usually leave money there either, but you leave wallet there. I see. I think we're going to leave this one alone. So this is actually a good page to look at for seeing what can be changed in your profile. So you can change your email. You can change your username. And then internally, the system also uses the profile to store login token, the IP address valid for the login token, and then when the login token expires. I think the password is also technically in the profile, but I had a special, I had a special method for that called set password, because the password really is 4 pieces of information. Your username, the hash of your password, the salt used to make the hash, and the number of iterations of the hashing algorithm. So those are all stored together. There's really a 5th one, which is the, oh, that's just bad news. This is Intellisense messing up. There's a 5th one, which is the identification of which hash algorithm, but right now I only have 1, so it's sort of hard-coded. You're integrating a payment processor, and it's a pain in the ass. Sometimes you need to do actual payments to test it. Oh no. Actually, I've noticed that sometimes when you link bank accounts, the bank will do this trick where to verify you have control over both accounts, it will send like $1 broken up into 2 payments that are like a random number of cents in each one that adds up to $1, and it will, if it succeeds, it will then make a withdrawal of that $1 back. So I would imagine that what you're doing in your payment processor could be the same thing, right? You do like $1. Hey, thanks for the follow, Sanjay. You could do like $1 and then take that $1 back, right? Unless it's only one direction, and then maybe you're just doing minimum transactions, and then I don't know. I hope you get reimbursed some other way. All right. Anyway. All right. In addition to the password, there's also a reset token. I could probably put these into the change profile, at least the password reset token. But I guess I kind of felt that the password, anything having to do with the password, needed to go through a special path. But maybe that's not a good thing. You don't want to get reimbursed. Hey there, Clayman. Raimu Wave, back to your Adam EJ Wave. You really hate how much of a cut Twitch gets from subs? Yeah. So alternatives would be, I've seen some streamers just accept what? Brain fart. They accept donations straight from PayPal, or they use a Patreon or something like that. I don't know. I guess I'm kind of on the fence because Twitch gives us this nice working platform for doing all this, so maybe they deserve some of the money. I don't know. Or maybe, I guess the way you could think of it is Twitch doesn't get your money directly. I'm being taxed by Twitch, right? Adam won't take your money? He's such a nice guy. I know that. Shove it down his throat, yeah. Give him a gift, and don't let him return it. All right, so I think the players layer, we allow everything to be set. So let me look at the I think the executor might be the same thing. We want to allow it to take anything. That would be change profile. Yeah, so it just passes it, forwards it along. So then the next level up from the executor would be the coordinator. And profile, I think. Does this have an on-change profile? Yes, it does. Okay. You can create virtual credit cards. Yeah, I would imagine that credit card payment systems probably have a way to test without using real money. Or, yeah, I don't know too much about it. Hey there, 2H strike or two-handed strike? You have a question? What are the main features C++ has over C? Classes, yeah, but then C has structures, and you can, a lot of people actually make class-like objects in C using structures containing both variables and, or normal data variables and pointers to functions, which are the equivalent of methods. Templates, yeah, that might be a good example. I made a template the other day. It was in components. Okay, let's not look at that ugly template. But yeah, where you can define the shape of a data structure, parameterizing part of it. So here T is the parameter. So the actual map type depends on what type you pick for T. So I call that, why does this keep bugging me? It's either a shape or a pattern. Yeah, my Intellisense is already dying. I think it's because I'm hovering over complicated template stuff. Uh-oh. Okay, now it's working again. They're controversial because, well, you're saying some people are definitely one camp or the other. When used properly, they're powerful. Yeah, the corollary to C would be this, macros, which I actually used here because there are some limitations of what you can do with templates. Macros are even more evil than templates, in my opinion, and they are firmly in the C preprocessor. They're not even in C. They're in the preprocessor for C. But they're pretty much templates in before C++ existed, right? You used macros. And what makes them really ugly is you can do things like this, gluing a argument with something that's not an argument and making a new word. And it's difficult to see in the editor what you get. So when make thunks, this is generating a lot of lines of code and we can't really see it. We'd have to sort of imagine how this macro would be unfolded into these sub macros, and then you're getting a whole bunch of function object and static methods which call them out of each one of these lines. So they're kind of dangerous. Kind of like code bombs, right? So a template is not so bad in my opinion because you actually can see all of the code it's going to become. It's just some of the types are obscured. Macros are a lot worse, I think. Define true to false. Yeah, you can do all sorts of really bad things with macros. A lot of bugs I've run into in the past have been because of macros screwing up my understanding of how the code's working. See, I'm going to give another example of C++ over C. Thanks for the follow, Patrick Burks 0001. I would say let's look at something that's actually C++ to give an example. One thing that C++ has that C doesn't are... Actually, is this a C++ thing or is it more of a C thing? I guess it would be leveraging that idea of a template to make useful objects like, or useful generics like this shared pointer. So with shared pointer, you get roughly what you have in C# or Java with object references, which you don't have to worry as much about when they need to be destroyed because they have either a reference count or they are garbage collected. Either way, in C you don't really have this unless you were to make it yourself. A system where after you allocate an object, allocate memory for an object and build it up, that you can have the program figure out when it should be freed, when that memory should be freed, and when the object should be destroyed. In C++, is like in other languages like C# and Java. They have, either with the library or through leveraging things like templates or generics, these utility or helper or wrapper objects to take care of things like that for you. Yeah, C has auto now? Yeah, but yeah, C is evolving alongside C++, right? So C is adding a lot of things that were previously only in C++, like bool and auto. Actually, is that C auto? It's not type inference. It's still the old auto, right? As in this, how you store it. I use auto now for type inference. So if we know that message is a JSON value, forwarded message is also a JSON value. There. Oh, that's 2H strike. Thanks for the follow. I justify my use of auto heavily, and in fact I have a command for it, because I have Intellisense. When it works, I can hover over something and it tells me the type. So I don't need to actually put the type here, because I guess I expect that whoever's looking at the code also has the same tools I have, and will be able to, if they don't know what the type is, just hover over it. The advantage I see at Intellisense over putting the type here is, if you can see that little box there, not only does it tell me the type, it also has the, it closes before I can click on it, but it has more information which is derived from the comments from where that type was declared, which is really cool. Did I miss any other comments? Is unique pointer C++ only? Yeah, but you can do anything you can do in C++, you can do in C. You just need a bit more boilerplate support utility code behind the scenes to do it. So you could make a structure called unique pointer in C. You'd have to do a bit more of it manually, but conceptually you can do it. But so you can think of C++ as giving you a lot of what we call syntactic sugar, code generated for you by the compiler. And what else did I miss? That was basically it, right? So yeah, today I am focusing on making sure that this doesn't allow a player to change just anything that they want. You're hiring, I see. The main argument against auto is if people are using it in different editors, hides useless information in some cases. Yeah, so it's, it's a matter of preference, right? So if I was working in a team and a lot of people didn't like the fact I was using auto so much, I wouldn't mind too much doing this. All right, it's the same thing. It's just a little bit more typing. I prefer to use auto because if I were to rename this type, I wouldn't have to change that line of code. But, it's best to not get too set in your ways and be flexible, especially if you're going to be working with different people. That's my opinion. You've been programming games in Lua before and you want to get into lower level code, so you weren't sure which language to choose. Look to feature C++ had. Yeah, so C++, it's a double-edged sword. It's older, it has more warts to it, but it is being a much older language, it has a lot more stuff built up for it. So there are a lot of libraries out there. You can pretty much find a library in C++ to do anything you want. Whereas with other languages, you might run into like some things just people haven't done in that language yet, if it's a newer language. So there are pluses and minuses. Auto adds compile time. Yeah, but when, like, for example, when I build my stuff now, it only takes 30 seconds to build. And even shorter, like maybe only 5 seconds if I've just changed one library. So it's a trade-off. Depends on your build system. Yeah, hey there, said who. So yeah, Senjai. Right now, I'm making this big push to... This is sort of a dream I've been trying to follow for a long time, and I've taken advantage of the fact that I'm between jobs right now to try to go for it. If I'm successful in making this game integrated with the Twitch community, this will be my new career. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go back and find something. And that would be kind of sad. I'll probably still continue working on this game, but it would be more of a side project and would go slower. So I'm really hoping that I can get enough interest in what I'm doing and enough help from you guys to make something fun to play, and then it supports me. If you have to go back, why not apply to working games? I might. But if you look at my code journey, most of my time has been back-end server and prototype app stuff, a lot of multimedia. So I'd like to get into games. I just don't have as much experience. Although I'm finding that a lot of things cross over. So I worked a lot on voice over IP, right? And that's real-time protocol passing messages that have certain formats. And I'm finding that there's a lot of corollary between that and then multiplayer games, because you have two ends again. You have a server and a client, and you need to pass messages between them, and you have protocols. So there's a lot of knowledge crossover. You ever go back? Shopify is looking for people who know everything from CSS to JS. Finding people with experience in both is difficult. Yeah. So I try to keep my knowledge broad so that and I'm not pigeonholed into one thing. It's also more fun. I find that if you learn a lot about one language, you find it easier to learn other languages. And other languages, their differences are kind of like a fresh new thing, and it keeps you motivated. Code should be written self-explanatory. Yeah, I agree. I have not been very good at that in the past, and I'm trying to get better through doing a lot more refactoring and making functions smaller. But even this needs to be refactored, right? It's just too long. I'm kind of gravitating towards trying to enforce a rule on myself where it has to fit within however many lines I decided here to show on Twitch. What is that? 33 lines? And if it can't fit in 33 lines, I need to break it up. So for example, one thing I could do is take this else and extract that as its own method. And then that might get me under the 33 line limit, right? Actually that and maybe this. So my code, isn't perfect. It will never be. I'm still trying to get better. And my apologies when you see my messy code. Voice over PogChamp IP feels bad, man. Oh, voice over IP. Voice over IP is pretty fun because you have to worry about latency and data loss and error concealment and all that kind of stuff. Different codecs. Why would you abstract things out even more? Just because of because if you're trying to understand what on-change profile does and you have to read all these lines, you're like, a lot of people would be like, they get this far and they're like, I don't know what you're doing. But if instead of this block of code, there was one line that said, like in English, what this code is going to do, and then if you can, like right now, I can control click on this on-change profile, and it brings me, actually that's a bad example because there are 3 with the same name. Which one would it be? The one with the username and the message. This one. It would bring you here. So this code used to be here inside this if, and I refactored it out so that you can see that it's really just calling an alternative on-change profile with different arguments when you get to that point. Oh yeah, I had a feeling you were talking about that playing with scissors. Voice over IP, yeah. But your joke was too refined for. I have a bad sense of humor, and I don't get jokes a lot, so my bad. Excuse me, didn't mean to slurp there. All right, so the change profile. You're right. We're just allowing anything to be changed, right? It's this changes. And it's actually, I should have clicked in there because that's where we want to go, I think. Right, we're allowing anything to be changed. I think we need to restrict it so only certain things are allowed in that change structure. So I guess I'll spam this command. This has been a while since I haven't made unit tests in a bit because I've been prototyping. When I'm working on back-end stuff, I like to do it with test-driven development because I had a good friend who really got me into it. It is a technique where you kind of write code backwards. You write a test first for a new feature or for a bug. Especially if you find the bug and you're able to reproduce it, you do so in a test. The test fails at first, and then you fix your code to make it pass. Yeah, I know. Sorry, playing with scissors. This is the boring part. I'm not very good at this, so I'm a little slower than I want to be, but I feel it's good in the long run. I get to build up a large collection of tests that will catch anything that I break, and it's caught bugs that have regressed many times for me, so it's been nice. So this is how you do it. if I wanted to make sure that you cannot change, for example, your password, or actually, let's get a list of things that can be changed that we don't want the user to change. That would be going back to players, right? Right, any of these stuff, we don't want the user to set those themselves. And actually username, because that's a special API. Right now they can only change their email, so we want to disallow changing all of these. So let's start from the top. So token, we don't want them to set token. So I would say change profile cannot be used to set token. And then basically set up a test where the pretend user tries to do that, and then we make sure that they're not allowed to do that. You never write a test if you never see a bug. That's true. We still write tests when we add new features, though. Yeah, I mean, again, this is not a hard and fast rule. It's just one way of doing things. A lot of people are very successful never writing any tests at all. They have a good enough insight into their code, and they're really good at writing their code cleanly, so that when they see a bug, they just go fix it, and that works for them. I guess it was just my friend convinced me that this was, in the long run, a valuable thing to do, and I've been trying to do it. Okay, I think I'm going to take a test that I already have where we're changing the email, because that will be the closest, so I don't have to repeat figuring things out. So where's the change email? I think it's this one. Right, new email. Okay, so I'm going to take this, and we'll put it here. And we'll say, well, actually, it doesn't matter. I don't need it in a variable. We'll put it here, so token. PogChamp. What we expect to happen there is, if it was an email, we were expecting 3 journal entries to be appended by this code, and the last one to be a changed profile where the email address was in there. I think what I'll do, I think what we wanted to expect is that this changed profile is never appended. So what we'll do is we'll loop through, let's see, we'll make a flag here. Change profile found, and then we'll expect it to be false at the end. Oh, my Intellisense is already broken, I think. Yeah, so I like to say what my mentor told me is that unit tests, if written well, document the requirements or the history of a component. So if you want to see how you change a username, this is sort of demonstrating the API for it. The API for it is that you log in as a user, you send this message that looks exactly like this, and internally it's done with a changed profile call to the players with that same information. And you expect that the client is still connected and their username is changed. So it's documenting how, like the API, how it's done, any internal things that have to happen, and then what you expect, all the side effects that you expect. So documentation. It's also building up, like I said before, a library of safeguards, so that if you were to break something, some other test somewhere else would start failing, and then you have an indication that you broke something. As systems get larger and larger, there's more and more risk of things breaking because of code fragility. Code is fragile, right? The more fragile a structure is, and the higher you try to build it, the more likely it's going to break. All right, so what I'm gonna do is loop through for const auto entry in mock journal. Okay, this is a vector. I'm a little bit concerned that the Intellisense is not working very well. I rebuilt everything from scratch last night. That in the past has worked to get around this Intellisense bug, but yeah, I don't think it's working so well today. So I might have to work a little bit more slowly. So, right, I think we can just steal this. Expect that it's not equal, right? Actually, I don't need this. We're just expect that all the commands are not equal to that type of command. So these macros you see, they're explained in what I spammed earlier, the Google test framework. It's a framework I use to make tests. So if any of these are like assertions, if any of them fail, it marks the test as failed. I think that's all we need, right? So I think right now when we try this, the test will fail because it will allow the user to set their own password token, which we don't want to allow. Well, let's see. I could be wrong. I've been wrong many times in the past. Yeah, refactoring. Well, refactoring can change interfaces. What refactoring shouldn't do is change behaviors. Sometimes when I refactor, I will have to change tests because, you know, you might rename something. You're not changing its behavior, you're just changing what name you tell the compiler it is. I still call it refactoring even though I have to change my tests. If your tests only cover refactoring that doesn't change interfaces, I think you were saying the same thing. Without testing, having more cascading. Yeah, so cascading failure implies you have many different levels. So what I like to do is test units. Because I'm building up a larger system out of units. So I have like this server architecture, right? Each one of these boxes I have tests for. I make sure that the tests are very concentrated on one component so that I feel more confident when I start linking these up that I won't have a cascading failure. It won't all come crashing down because of some bug in one component. It won't mingle with bugs of other components and cause even bigger problems. I try to catch the bugs early, right? So if actually it's not 100% successful, you get bugs that sneak through, and you'll have the whole system crash or something. The remedies, you try to find the root cause. You find maybe it's in the coordinator. You add a unit test to the coordinator to reproduce it and fix it. Rather than, I guess, another matter of taste would be some people like to have integration level tests or tests that take the whole system and run it and test certain things. I think that that's a lot more complicated, a lot slower, a lot more difficult to do, so I kind of steer away from that, and I really try to concentrate on unit tests for each of these boxes. By the way, all this stuff is in my notes. My notes are all in OneNote if you want to take a look at them. Full system testing is incredibly hard. Yeah, I think so too. Also, I think user interface testing is really hard. I really respect people that can do it. I'm terrible at it. So what I try to do for my user interfaces is make them extremely thin and, you know, basically just veneer on top of some kind of logic, which I'll unit test. Okay, I think that's the new test, right? So it's failing like it should be. It's actually throwing an exception. So let me make sure I didn't screw this up by running in the debugger. Oh, yeah, okay, so there's an empty command. I didn't write this correctly. So it's possible in my game's journal to have empty commands. They're called no-op commands. So really we only want to do this if entry.command not equal to null pointer. Integration tests, I just have a hard time doing them. They're in a lot of different programming, what do you call it? Techniques, or not techniques. For a lot of different problems in programming, the solutions, if there are more than one, you have to weigh them, pros versus cons, right? Null commands being possible smells buggy. Yeah, so one alternative to doing this would be to have a null command. And yeah, I could do that. You can see the cost of me not doing it is I had a crash there. So it's not crashing anymore, but we are getting those change profile commands that shouldn't be in there. How come it's saying it Oh, is there more? There's more than one change profile. Interesting. I want to see that. Let's go run the debugger. Yeah, so again, matter of preference. I could have a null command and then not need this check. What the pro would be, I wouldn't have run into that problem just now, which took me all of like a minute to fix. The con would be I would have to have more code to implement that null command. So it's like a trade-off. If I run into a bug that costs me like an hour to try to fix, or costs me like hours to work around, then I would say, well, if it only takes me half an hour to make, let's say, the null command, I would go and do it because it saves me time. So really, if I wanted to be completely like perfect at this, what I would do is take a log of how much time each decision like that costs me, add it up, and then at a certain point I say, well, having null pointers checks everywhere has now cost me more time than it would have had to make a null command. I would switch to doing null command. It crashed my program, but it crashed it within the unit tests, and I fixed it in a minute. So I kind of make the call that it didn't cost me much to do it this way. But I'm not saying you're wrong and I'm right. It's just it's a trade-off. Either way, I think is fine, as long as you can accept the cost. Look, I do have. Do I have? I think this is the change profile command. Yeah. So what's command 1? Oh, it's also a change profile command. Is that because? Oh, right. This login creates a token. Okay, so we don't want to count any commands that happened before this one. So I think what I'll do is I'll find out what the how many entries we have at this point are. Initial entries size. And we'll skip those ones. So I'll change this loop around to say for size ti equals initial entries. See, this is Intellisense not helping me out today. I is less than mock journal entry size. And then const auto entry equals mock journal entries I. Otherwise, it's the same code. I still expect it to fail because that third command was a change profile. It should just be one thing is wrong. Okay, so now the test is pretty much set, and I need to go change the code to make the test pass. Just overheard everywhere. You use that a weird exception in the logic. Tend to be conservative on things like that in interfaces. No issue, but I mean, yeah. So it also, the trade-offs are different depending on the development team or the developer, right? Some people are really good at avoiding bugs with null pointers, so they can do that without much cost. Other people, sometimes like me, will make this mistake a lot, like you saw. I demonstrate that I had it null and it did dereference it. And maybe for them, it makes sense to have the null object pattern employed, and they don't have to check for null pointers. So I think it kind of depends. All right, so let's fix that bug. And I hope you guys don't please don't be offended by things I say. I could be wrong, let me know. And a lot of the time I think it's just personal preference. And so I accept if you want to do it differently, that's fine. In the end, I'll be punished if I make the wrong decisions by having to do more work. And then I'll learn. I think we learn best from our own mistakes anyway. So I will probably make mistakes and hopefully learn from them. The change profile is here. So right, I think what we want to do, we're just going to ignore it, right? We will do a check. We'll loop through these changes and make sure that none of them are, that they're all permitted. I think that's what we'll do. So actually, I think what I'll do is I'll have several of these tests. Actually, you know what I'll do is I'll make a loop. I'll make this a loop. So I don't want to do this. Oh, thanks for the follow. It's Coder's Life. I like your name. It's Coder's Life. static const vector of strings. We'll call them forbidden change keys. Tokens 1, and then copying from players. We want IP address for token. We don't want that to be changed to this API. Token expiry. I'm making this into a table so that I can more easily come back and add things as I add more things I don't want the user to change directly. I could also do it the other way. No, for the test it has to be this way. It has to be things that we don't allow them to change. I was thinking the other way, we could list the things that we do allow them to change, but then it's sort of hard to test a negative. Alright, so this will be a loop for const auto forbidden change key singular in that, and then we'll do the act and assert in there. And we will just use the forbidden change key here. I understand, Shake Soda. Yeah, I have to. That's the thing with chat, right? There's a lot of information lost, so my apologies if I don't quite understand the meaning behind the words. Yeah, I do admit that I will screw up many times, and it takes me a while to realize, you know, I've just made that mistake 5 times now. I should probably do it differently. You know what we could do is I could explore what would be the cost of changing command to be a nullable object, or have a null command object. And then what I would gain would be I'd look for all the places I have to do that check. Might be an interesting study. Anyway, not to get too sidetracked, I want to make sure that this fails for all of those, and it does. So here's another thing you can do in Google Test. If you wanted to see which forbidden change key caused the error, you could shift that like you're doing a shift to see out. It kind of works the same way, is that if whenever those fail, it prints out the key that it failed on. So you can see that here. Token, IP address, oh, you know, it's because it's resetting it every time. Let's move this count into here, so we don't see duplicate errors. There we go. So for token, IP address for token, token expiry, and username, it's all failing. So it was back here, yes. We'll just do a check here for size. It's an object, right? So const auto key in message. Its message changes, and I wish Intellisense would help me out here. I think it's get keys. You see, now it's helping me out. It just doesn't want to autocomplete for me. I think what we'll want to have is the equivalent forbidden change keys just built into here, right? Wouldn't that be simplest? And let's make this a set instead of a vector. And then I could just check if that key is in that set, then we just return early. If for forbidden change keys, find, keyboard slip, find key is not equal to that end, then return. Missed paren? Did I miss a paren somewhere? Oh, yeah, you're right. Thank you. Alrighty, let's see. Yep, now it passes. So if I wanted to, let's say I forgot that one, that should make the test fail. I like to do this sometimes to sanity check. And now it says it failed on that one. And then here I'll demonstrate a regression. Let's say all these tests, let me make sure all these tests pass first. I should probably break this suite up. I like to have tests, oh, this is broken still? Oh, did I not build it? I was stupid, I didn't rebuild. Let's do that one more time. I like these test suites to take only a few seconds to run. This one takes an unacceptable number of seconds to run because it's so huge. I broke up the tests by module, but I think I need to break them up further into separate test suites so that they can be run in parallel. Anyway, so they're all passing right now. Let's say I accidentally put an email here. Now I expect other tests to break. So it's sort of a regression because other tests expect email to be changeable. So I expect that to cause, yeah, so it caused some of the other tests to break, right? Right, changing the profile, these ones that dealt with the email address. So that's good. So that fixes those. All right. Done with one task. Check in the code. Right. So right now the expectation is that it just doesn't do the command. If I wanted to, I could also say it disconnects the client if they do that, but I don't feel like doing that right now. Do not, let's just say ignore profile changes to forbidden keys. What am I using for Cmake and test integration? It's listed there. I could talk about it a little bit. I didn't know about the Test Explorer UI or the Captcha 2 and Google Test Explorer plugins to VS Code until I saw this on a screenshot from one of my viewers. And I'm like, this is awesome that I could just run all the tests here. It used to be that I went to here and I would run them myself this way. I'd go to build and I'd run realm server test, realm server test. And admittedly, it's sort of nice to see them running, but this I like better because you get to run individual tests in the debugger or rerun them. It's a lot faster. So yeah, it's you need both of them. The Google Test Explorer finds your tests, and then the Test Explorer UI is this pane. So you need both of them. That's the test integration stuff. For Cmake, I use the Cmake extension. I think it's called Cmake Tools. Cmake Tools. So there you go. Made by Vector of Boole, which is an awesome name. And I like that in that it lets you pick which tool set you want straight in the GUI here. And it's got the build buttons and the configure button up here, which will rerun Cmake for you. So it's really nice. Again, not required. I could do that from the command line as well, but it's just nicely integrated. Yippers. All right, I was going to mark that off my list, right? Yay, done. Okay, 2 players simultaneously change their names to the same name. The first player's record is destroyed. Actually, that's a hard one. I don't want to do a hard one right now. I'm still warming up for the day. Oh, excuse me. I should mute my mic when I'm drinking. Require Recaptcha to request password reset. Yeah, let's do that one next. So I think what we're doing is this is a change to a feature we already have. It's not a bug fix, so I'm going to be changing the test that matches that. Password reset request. Profile, I think, right? Oh, it might be auth. Might be auth player. There were enough tests revolved around passwords that I put it into its own special test file here. Yes, I think this is the one we need to change. So we need to basically require a reCAPTCHA. So we can take that test and duplicate it. And then this one on password reset request with reCAPTCHA. And then this one is do not append password reset token and password reset request without reCAPTCHA. ReCAPTCHA doesn't stop bots for crap anymore by itself? Oh, really? Uh-oh. Well, I did it as sort of a low-cost thing. It doesn't cost me much to put it in, but it is sort of controversial. I don't know. I'm not settled on it. I could strip all this stuff out if it doesn't. It's again a value study, right? Does it stop bots? Does it stop enough bots versus does it annoy too many players? If it annoys too many players and doesn't stop bots, it goes, right? I thought, well, I guess maybe I was lulled by Google's documentation. Apparently they've iterated it now 3 times, and the newest stuff is supposed to be pretty good. I don't know. And maybe your mileage may vary. I'll find out. If I get attacked by bots, then I'll probably scrap the reCAPTCHA stuff and try something else. Thank you for the follow, Dober Discord. All right, okay, this is do append, so let's add the capture in there. I have to remember how I did this. Thanks for the follow. I'm trying to say your name right. Dimmer30? You didn't reduce your bot volume at all? That sucks. Yeah, so Recaptcha V3. That's what I was hoping, that the latest... I hope that what Google says is honest and accurate, right? They say on their site that they do a lot of work to constantly improve their algorithms to stop that kind of thing, but I don't know. DM ready. Okay. Got it. The 3 is an E. Got it. Okay. Right, this is what I did. If you have a reCAPTCHA value, and then since this is in a unit test framework, I can simulate with mocks. I can simulate a reCAPTCHA success. So I'm going to use that same code. Actually, I just need to remember that word, right? So this is the one with reCAPTCHA, so we'll include a reCAPTCHA. It is reCAPTCHA, okay. I am not a robot. We can do whatever we want because it's not a real reCAPTCHA. It's all simulated. Thanks for the follow, Fried Beefed. I like your name too. Okay, so... Player sends in the message. I think we can immediately simulate the CAPTCHA success. And then we see that, right? Versus if they don't include a reCAPTCHA, we will expect that this is never appended. So, I think I'll do the same thing that I did a little bit ago. Initial... What did I call it? I forgot what I called it. Initial entries. This thing. And I could probably just copy this code here, right? Put that as my assert. And we will expect it. It is not a set password reset token. And they do all that. Oh, hold on. There's one more thing I wanted to do. We should actually test that the reCAPTCHA is looked up. And maybe that's what simulate does. Oh, no, it doesn't. It just assumes that one was made. So we should have an assert for that. I guess I don't. Oh, not in there. Here, though, I probably do. Yes. So we want to have this one. I want to expect that a request for a reCAPTCHA was made down here. Actually, it's going to be a hard. It's going to be an assert. Because otherwise, this will go into an empty array. This is an array, right? Or a vector? Yeah. So basically, we're going to assert that the backend made a request to verify the reCAPTCHA, and then we'll simulate a success for that. How big is your team? Or my one? Right now, I'm a one-man army, Pollux. But if, let's say, a year from now, I'm seeing that the growth of interest in my game is trending well, then I would probably look into hiring an artist, a musician, and maybe a marketing guy. Hey there, Romani, I hate. Yeah, right now I'm doing it by myself. Actually, it's technically not by myself. I'm doing this with you guys. I get a lot of feedback from you guys. And also, I get a lot of help and advice and examples, good examples and bad, from other Twitch streamers. I learn from other Twitch streamers' mistakes. I leverage their successes by just seeing what they do that works, and I try the same thing. And I think it's a community effort, especially this way of development on Twitch. OpenGL. Oh, for the front end? Right now I'm using Pixie.js, so this is what the front end is going to look like because I'm not a great artist, and I just want to make a game that I can focus on the content more than the appearance. Shoot, sorry about that. I forgot to mute my phone today. I get these robocalls all the time now. Anyway, the UI is pretty simple because I wanted to focus on story. So this is a prototype mock-up of the some of the aspects graphically of the game. And so it's going to be pretty simple graphics. I have a link to this, by the way, if you want to look. What inspired me to make this kind of a style are games like Ultima from the 90s, and also this prototype here is inspired by Gauntlet, which is an Atari game from the 80s. Because the graphics are very simple, and I can focus more on the mechanics in the game, the back end, which is what I enjoy doing more. And maybe it gives me a platform on which I can develop game stories and mechanics and not have to worry about so much perfecting the graphics, because I just don't have the ability right now artistically to do it. So mechanically what this is using behind the scenes is using Pixie.js, which uses WebGL or Canvas if you don't have your browser capable of doing WebGL. WebGL, if you have it, is built off of OpenGL. Do I have a gamer? I have this prototype game, but it's single player and it's all local. I don't have it hosted anywhere. But it's really just a mock-up prototype for me to test out things. The biggest thing I did with this, the two things that I was testing out was using Pixie.js and also making the entity component system. And so if you're interested in seeing that stuff, it's all on my GitHub. Look for Iron-Glove for the front end and Iron Glove backend for the backend. The backend, it's Lua and C++. Lua for all the game logic. It looks... Did I have that in my editor? No. I'll open it again. Right here. So all of the game logic fits in Lua in 450 lines. It's broken up into 8 different game systems. And then so that's the logic in the game, and then the component storage and the communication to the client is in C++ here. There are wrappers to hook up the main program, so to speak, with the Lua. So that's wrappers for JSON, WebSocket, script host, and then there's the actual game, which is actually pretty small now because it's just creating the level, and then it runs a worker thread to do the game tick, which is calling into Lua. And what else does it do? Okay, this actually, a lot of this is dead code actually. Yeah, and dealing with input from the user. So if they change what key they're using to fire or move, it goes to the input component for the hero and updates it. But yeah, this, if you're interested, you can ask questions or you can just check it out on GitHub. But yeah, I like to show this now that I have it, because this shows kind of like what it's gonna look like graphically. Only it'll look at least as good as this, hopefully better. This I did in like 3 or 4 days. I plan to spend months on improving different aspects, including the graphics. But I wanted to have something to give people a sense of what it might look like, and I didn't have that for the longest time, and it bugged me. I had nothing to show. Yeah, Intellisense is giving me problems today. All right, so this, I expect it to fail now because it will not make a Recaptcha request. When it does, we'll simulate it and we'll expect that it actually does it. Here, we expect it never makes the request. Should I also expect that it doesn't do a capture? No, it doesn't matter. It should just bail early because there's no Recaptcha request. Well, thank you, Pollux. I think it has room for improvement. I have planned to do a lot of refactoring, and I'll never be satisfied. But need to do the best I can. I'm worried more of not that the game breaks, but that it can be exploited and ruin the experience for others. I'm really paranoid about that. Too much render work this year so far. You have to strike a balance, right? If you're good artistically, you could spend more time on the art and polish it up there. I'm not as good at the art, so I figure my time is better spent on the back end for now. And I don't know, maybe this simplistic art will turn people off. I don't know. To take that risk. I'm hoping to put a lot of story and exploration and secrets and things you can do in the game to offset the primitive art. Also, the primitive art could be a plus if I market it as a retro, really retro game. Pixel art in itself is interesting because it's a step back from realistic 3D graphics to something like purposely more primitive, and some people like it. The future me always hates past me's code. That's like a rule of programmers. All the cool kids are doing retro games. Yeah, so why not join them? Actually, that's not a good reason to make a game, by the way. If everyone is doing the same thing and then you do it too, you're not going to get noticed. I've been reading about that. So one thing I'm going to have to do is try to put as many unique hooks into my game to make it look different from other games. One idea I had is, you can't see it now. Well, actually, you can see there's an exit in the corner. What if you're going through a part of the game, and then you go through an exit, and this part you'll have to imagine. Let's say you go through this exit, your character disappears, and let's say all of a sudden the scene changes to now it's a hex grid, or maybe it's a 3D UI. That's one idea I have for my game, is that when you... Oh, thanks for the follow, Pollux. That as you transition from one part of the game to another, what if the entire user interface changed? Even the coordinate system. Right now it's a grid. What if it changed to a hex grid? What if when you go through a magic door, you go from a grid to a hex grid type of environment? Wouldn't that be kind of cool? There have been a few games like that people have pointed out to me, and but not a whole lot. So that's one idea I had. Or goes to ISO? Yeah, could be. Yeah, screw future me. That guy's a jerk. No, you have to be nice. You have to be respectful of your elders. Future you is your elder. Remember that. You hate your code and you're typing it. Oh, come on, playing with scissors. You gotta at least have some enjoyment of your own. Some affection for the code you're writing. Maybe you don't like it 100%. But you must like it at least 1%. Okay, so... yeah, I need to see this. I need to see this build. I need to see it fail now. This is with an auth player right here. So let's run auth player. There I see it fail. Which one do I want to do first? Yeah, let's do this one. This one's easier. So we'll just make sure that it has a reCAPTCHA in it. That is an auth for a set password. Or is it reset password? Yes, this one. So it comes in, if they're not a registered user, we just pretend that we sent the email, because this is sort of to combat a bot trying to figure out things. Actually, I guess we don't need this, right? Because no, I'll keep it in. If we're gonna add a reCAPTCHA, this doesn't guard against bots so much as it. I didn't want to have a special return if like the account doesn't exist. Right. So yeah, this is going to get a bit more complicated, because right now, instead of either doing it immediately or forwarding into the leader, we want to take this logic and make this a function we call after we verified the CAPTCHA. And I think I'll put a bookmark here. I'm going to go looking for the code that we do that deals with reCAPTCHA. Here it is. What was this doing? Oh, this was, I think I remember this. This is making sure the reCAPTCHA token only had those characters in it, because I was paranoid about it. Did I do that more than once? Put a bookmark there. Let's look for this. No, it's only one place? On login. If a reCAPTCHA is needed. No, but I had this elsewhere. Ah, there we go. That was on registering a new account. Okay. This is kind of sort of bad that I have that code in more than one place. And now I'm going to add it to a third place. Makes me think I should make a function for this. So it's going to be, it's the same in both places. Both here and here, they take the token and they form a query to Google to verify the token. So it posts the request to the web, and then it passes a function to be called back if it receives a response. If it receives a response, it parses the body, and if Google says a success, we continue. Otherwise, we log that it's a error, and then we say bad password and return. So a lot of the stuff is reusable. Like this, all of this is reusable. The only thing that changes is the response, right? So I'm wondering if I should first do the refactoring to make this a special function. Helper function time, yeah. So let me back up a little bit. Can I just stash the changes I was making? Let's see what the changes were. Yeah, I think I'm going to stash that. And then do a little bit of refactoring right now. So what I like to do when I refactor is first run all the tests to make sure they all pass. Then do the refactoring, then make sure they still pass. Okay, so while it's doing that, let me prepare. Yeah, this part, let's just take this whole thing out. And where shall I put it? This is in profile right now. I think I had set aside this coordinator impl for helpers. Right, so I had a helper like generate random tokens. So this is probably the place I want it to go. Thanks, Playing with Scissors. Yeah, using Google Test. The parts that sort of give away the fact I'm using Google Test are when I include gtest, and then I make every test framework, or no, not framework, fixture. Every test fixture derives ultimately from testing test. And then if you use a fixture, it's test F for every test, otherwise it's just test. And then these are also signatures of Google test. These macros that will make your test fail if certain expectations aren't met. Right, I'm going to put the helpers here. Right here. So what do we want? Just it's asynchronous, right? So what do I want to name it? This is one of the problems programmers have, finding good names. If I'm writing a function that will verify a reCAPTCHA token, and if it succeeds, do one thing. If it fails, do something else, then what will that be? Initiate recaptcha check verification. How about just initiate reCAPTCHA verification. And then the idea is that we have a token, right? Or it's reCAPTCHA value. And then there'll be two functions to call. One if it succeeds, on success, and then one if it fails, right? Something like that. You almost always just write a dumb name to implement. Yeah, I do that. I mean, I guess I do that sometimes. Other times I'll just make the name longer. And then if I come back later, I'm like, oh, I can make that shorter by renaming it. I'll just do it then. And I'm sure Playing with Scissors and Hideo hate me for that, but I like long named functions. Or if I can't think of a good name. How come I have two of these? Oh, one was a shorthand for the other. Yes. Okay, so it goes here. I still have it in my clipboard. I want to lose it, so I'm going to paste it first. And then I'll copy the, what do you call that? The prototype, the signature, function signature next, and then put in the correct scope. And before I forget, I'll add my documentation. So this documentation is not really meant for the humans to read directly from the source code. It's really meant to be picked up by a tool like Doxygen when we form like a reference guide to the library. You just don't like unnecessarily long. See, unnecessarily long names are for me an escape valve for when I can't think of a short, succinct, correct name. Okay, so I try to remember also. I'm sticking to imperative case. I used to would say something like this method blah blah blah, but now I'm trying to use imperative case. It would be send a request to Google to verify the given reCAPTCHA value. If Google responds back that the verification succeeded, call the on-success delegate. Otherwise, call the on-failure delegate. Delegate is just a fancy name for a callback, really. It is the refined name. It is a delegate, sir. It is not a simple callback. It is a delegate. Recaptcha value. This is the value provided by the front end that is provided through the front end that is used to verify that the user is not a bot. Not a bot. Bots are not permitted through this API, only humans. This is the delegate to call if the Recaptcha verification is successful. And then, much like that is on failure, this is delegate to call fails. Current me is the best. You try not to be a jerk to future me when possible. What do you guys think about if I try to do an entire stream in a robot voice? Is that just too corny? Or maybe that's too much stress on my voice, or what? I just had this wacky idea yesterday to try to do that. I probably, what Adam said, I could probably get a few minutes in and then it get too frustrating. You would get bored after the first 5 minutes? Okay. Maybe what I'll do is if I stream Botland streams are not as long. They're not like 4-hour streams. They're more like an hour, right? I could do a Botland stream in a robot voice. Or maybe just not even a stream, maybe just a video. Okay, so we don't need that. Recaptcha is just recaptcha value. And actually, do we have 3 functions? Because if the recaptcha value isn't even valid, we this means to erase the client from our set of clients, as in hang up on them. Whereas if we fail, what are we doing? We're sending a message back. I guess we have 3 functions. Let's add a third one. So it's success, failure, and then on what do we call it? On bad input. Why not? On bad input. There we go. On bad input. Is the del to get to call it the recaptcha value is not valid. Alright. So here we'll just call it on bad input. Return. Early return. This part, I don't know why I did it there. That really should be done, well, that should be done in the on success, I think. Right? Anyway, this is the generic helper we're doing. Okay, I need my utility for doing string formatting. I made a C++ version of sprintf that allocates the amount of memory we need to make a string, and I have this on my list. Right now we're using the test key, test secret, which is not really secret, but I need to make that configurable, but that's on my list to do later. Okay, I guess we need the WebSocket of the client? No, we don't, because that's only used in the success, so I don't really need that here. This, we already are impl. And this is the success delegate, isn't it? Only these additional things are given. So really we don't need either of these. No, we need the on success, on failure. Because if it's success, we're going to, right, so we're going to do this part of it. If it's success, call the on success, otherwise call the on failure, right? And this stuff gets moved into the delegate. That gets moved into the delegate. There we go. I think that's what we want. Right? Do I even need impl? I don't even need impl. What am I doing? No, that's a parameter. Yes. The parameter we didn't need. We needed the transaction. We didn't really need our own impl because we have captured the 2 delegates we need. All the context needed is in those. Okay, I think I'm done with this. The hard-coded secret, it's a test secret. So if you go to the Recaptcha, easy on humans, hard on bots, we have to go to their frequently asked questions. Really? Okay, how do I get to that? Resources? Come on, Google. Okay. I'll just find where it was. I had this bookmarked at one of the times that I did this. Here we go. There we go. Directly to where I want to go. So there's a test site key secret, and you will always get no captcha, and all verification will pass. So I'm just using that for now. So I do have a thing to go back and use the real key. That is in my Trello over here somewhere. It wasn't considered, it was features. Make Recaptcha site key configurable. See? I will do it one day. Yeah, so for now it's hard-coded. But at least it should only be hard-coded in one place now. Alright, so let's redo... Was it here we had it? No. Here, right? So we won't do this anymore. We will just prepare our on success. Actually, let's do it in reverse order. So on bad input equals, we need to capture impl. Will it let me do that? I think it will. It's just this. Actually, let me see if it will let me do that. No, it won't. I think I need to make a copy of a local variable to capture it first. A lambda capture variable must be from an enclosing function scope. Fine. Be that way, C++. Here it is. So I'll just make another one. Actually, I can just say const auto impl capture equals impl. Silly that I have to do this. Maybe they fix that in C++ 17. I hope they do. Actually, will it let me do this? Think it will? Yeah, I can make that const as well. I just want to do that so I don't have to modify that. Oh, I need to capture the WebSocket. Right, and that I don't want a strong reference to. I'm going to do like I did down here. I made a weak pointer to it. Pass in the weak pointer and then get the strong pointer back by trying to lock the weak pointer. And if we can't, that means the client already disconnected, so we just abort. We just drop it. We'll need a semicolon. Redefinition, indeed, we did redefine it. You've looked a book in the past, wanted to try C++, then look further and realized there's no such, there's so much, it's overwhelming. Yeah, I would learn it in pieces. I'm learning it from first the basic stuff you learn about C++, which is like technically the old C++, and then the modern C++, which is they did a whole bunch of standardization work in like the 2000s to 2010 to make C++ 11. So that's where I'm still learning pieces, and that's things like weak pointer is in C++ 11, and then I'm still learning. So after C++ 11, they made more changes. The biggest revision was 2017, and I think in 2020 there's going to be a new version as well. So I would just learn from like the basic stuff, and then start picking up C++ 11, then C++ 17. I mean, you don't have to learn all of it. Learn as much as you need. Like I'm able to make, I think I can make pretty much all my game without C++ 17. It's just I'm not taking advantage of some of the newer improvements to the syntax. I mean, you could also just do it all in C. It's really just giving you more tools for your tool set. Once you feel like you have enough tools to do what you want, you don't need to pick up more necessarily. All right, so there's my bad input lambda. Let's make the on failure next. And that, we don't know what we want yet. Let's make a shell. Oops. I hit the wrong key. Let's make the shell for the on success as well. Just so that I can make the call. So the call is going to be impl initiate Recaptcha Verification. And the reCAPTCHA is this. And then it is on success, on failure, on bad input. And that's the end of the function. The rest of this stuff goes into that function. So I need to figure out what I want to put in there. This is all the boilerplate, right? All boilerplate. Although I think I'm going to need some of that, right? Actually, I already have it up there. Right, here's the success part. So this, we want in the success lambda. And then, oh no, that's the failure, sorry. I had it backwards. That's the failure, and then the rest of this code is the success, right? So this is the success lambda code. There we go. So asynchronous programming looks kind of weird because what you're doing is you're setting up, you set up first what you want called at the end, and then you kick off the procedure. You're saying, start doing it, and then depending on what happens, call one of three different functions to complete it. Why pick C++ over C#? Because when I started learning programming, there was no C#. So for me, yeah, it was mostly just because I knew C++ from way, way, way back. Another reason to pick C++ over C# is C# needs the, what do you call it? It needs the, it used to just be .NET. Is it still called .NET? You need that platform on which to run it. And C++ you don't. You can pretty much run it bare metal. So yeah, that's one reason. I don't want to have to set up the .NET runtime on the server. So I just want to be able to build an executable and be able to run it. But I would say mostly it's just because I've known C++ for years, and so it's something I'm used to. Yeah, there are nice things in C++. I would say C++ is a good language to pick if you're doing a lot of either object-oriented or meta programming because of the tools you have, like templates and classes and that kind of thing. But if you're building an operating system, C is fine. The Linux kernel is written in C, right? So an object-oriented programming, it used to be the biggest thing, right? But I think more and more people are realizing these days it's just one way of programming, and it's not always the best way. So for example, entity component system for a game, it's not really object-oriented. It's more data-oriented. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to speak authoritatively about stuff I don't really know correctly. Well, thank you, Setu. Let me fix this. Right, so we need access to our impl. So the same kind of thing, right? Looks like I need my WebSocket too. Unfortunately, this boilerplate I have to duplicate because, well, actually I don't need to. Well, I could probably combine this common code into a common delegate that's given to all of these by capture. I don't want to think too much about it though. Let's just make it work, and then I'll refactor later if I want to. Choose OOP for everything? Yeah, watch out, Romania hate. You're gonna run into the OOP haters. There'll be a battle. Okay, why doesn't... Okay, Intellisense just needed to catch up. Okay, so we need... Oh, okay, we actually want that. Let's provide that. So we'll make that a parameter of onFailure. That is called error codes. Right? So put it in both places. And we just pass it to the failure here. So that is this. Why does it have 2 encoding? Oh, because it's a... No, hold on. Why is it 2 encoding? The JSON value? Oh, okay. Yeah, it was it's JSON. Google gives you back a JSON value. So actually, what if I just provide the JSON value directly? So const JSON value error codes. Yeah, I like that better. You're coding in the background trying to do some weird stuff like adding two numbers without using plus? Oh, well, how would you add it without doing plus? That's more of a math problem, right, than it is a programming problem? What's RD again? Relational database? Oh, with XOR and... Oh, yeah, there you go. So I should give a shout out to Setu because some of the stuff he does, it's for a real good purpose. He likes to stream shader toy stuff, so GPU programming, and there's a lot of math there, and so a lot of tricks in math come in handy when you're doing shaders. So check out his stream sometime. RD relational database, yeah. Oh, so there's nothing wrong with C#, right? It just comes with some requirements. You have to have the platform on which it runs. If you're using Unity, for example, the nice folks who made Unity have already given you that platform, so C# is wonderful. There are pluses and minuses in every. I like to know a lot of different languages so I can pick the one that feels best for the problem. Which is, I guess, why I'm picking 4 different languages for this game, right? C++, Lua, Python, and JavaScript. All right, so this needed to go a couple places, right? Here. Intellisense is getting batty. All right, so that is just this. There. Ah, it's freaking out. You can use .NET Core, yeah. But you couldn't always. That's a newer thing, right? That it is now open source. So yeah, as that gets more and more popular, more and more people that's Microsoft's goal, right? Make it more and more popular so people use C# more in more places. I think it's a smart strategy, actually. Although you have to worry, those guys used to be the evil empire, right? Maybe they still are. So here we are past the error codes directly. So it's just error codes to encoding. And no, we're already no impl. It's an arrow. Why did I have it at a dot? Oh, because it was passed back in before, and yeah, now it's narrow. Okay, got it. So it's the same thing. We need to capture. We need to capture the WebSocket. No, I just need the impl. Oh, these arrows though become. These dots become arrows here. Okay, we need to capture the original message. That's easy. It's just message. I think it just needs, Intellisense needs a bit to catch up. Yep, it's compiled successfully. Intellisense is behind. Oh, they're caught up. Okay, moment of truth. Will this break anything? I hope it doesn't. But this is here. I'm leveraging all these nice unit tests I have. Oh, I broke something. We can run the debugger and find out where I broke it. Successful login after new player account. So it never got the logged in. It never got to here. Oh no, the success one. Oh, I know why. There was a line I removed that I needed to put back in. How do I get that back? Look at the git lens for it. It was this client register for equals username needed to be moved in to the success delegate. Right here. Oh, I don't have client though. How do I get client? I guess capture it? Sure, let's capture client. Because we can. Username. Oh, I need username? Actually, I wonder if this is safe to do. Is it telling me it's not safe to do? I think it's telling me that. Yeah, it's saying it's const. Right, so we really can't capture the client. We'll have to find the client again. Is the percentage reporting in Ninja a new thing? I don't know. It's always been in Ninja as far as I've seen. This percentage. I haven't used Ninja that long, just like half a year. So it might be new. Yeah, okay. I need to take a short break to use the restroom, but I will be right back, folks. And unfortunately, I don't have a cool BRB screen. My apologies. You'll have to look at this really old static image, but it should just be a minute or two. I'll be right back. I'm back. So pretty sure we cannot capture a reference because it will make a const copy of it. So, or it'll either make a copy or it'll be constant. So instead we need to find the client again, probably based on the WebSocket. So let me find out where this is done. I think it's done in messaging, right? Where is it exactly? At some point we have, is it in here? We have these message handlers. Here it is. So how is the client found? Oh, we find clients with the WebSocket. Okay, got it. And this assumes that it's that client exists. Oh, it has to. I think. Let me think about that. Actually, it doesn't have to. Now that I think about it, is this safe? I think it is, because if it's removed from the client, then we hang up on the connection immediately. So this is safe to do. So back here, we just need to capture that WebSocket again. I can do that as long as I have a WebSocket. And it's in impl, right? So it's impl clients. There we go. Oh, I don't want to capture a client anymore. Clients is not a member of impl? Where is it? Oh, it's messaging, right? There we go. Okay, let's try it again. Hey, look at that, success. That means I can now use it from the other place we had the Recaptcha stuff, right? And then finally use it for the new stuff that I have stashed in Git. The other place was auth, I think, right? Not the test for auth, the auth stuff. Here it is. Right, so here we can use the same kind of setup here. I'll probably need to just do the same kind of thing. So let's just take this and paste it. So that is the same as that. So we're good for that much of it. This much is the same. This is the... Oh, okay. So this is the failure, that's the success, right? So failure is the same as bad input. I think I can actually cheat then, right? Oh no, it has different arguments. So failure. Failure has that error codes. We don't care. It really just does the same thing here, right? And then success is do login. So just capture do login. Actually, can I just make it do login? I think I can. Super simple. So this says on bad input or on failure, we're going to remove our client record, which basically disconnects the client. On success, it just does a login. And we do a login directly if a... So this is in login, right? Where if you do a bad password too many times in a row, it requires a captcha. Otherwise, it doesn't, and it does the login immediately. Let's try that. Huh, it's taking longer to build right now. That's interesting. You did a full link for some reason. These tools are mysterious sometimes. All right, hoping that this works, and then I can do the same kind of thing for the new code. Yep, it works. So git stash pop, or no, hold on. I want to check this in as a refactoring, don't I? Yes. Making the helper. So coordinator refactoring. Extract method initiate Recaptcha Verification. It's an environment variable setting. Ninja status. Oh, cool. I am leveraging heavily Cmake's stuff and Cmake tools extension VS Code. So I didn't have to worry about that. It just was set up for me. So, but I'm a little curious. If you're saying it's a setting, it should probably be in the Cmake cache, right? I don't see any settings. Is it just something that's default to Ninja now? Because here it's set to run Ninja for the make program, and then generator internal is Ninja, but that's the only references to Ninja that I see. Would it be... I'm looking for status, I don't see any matches. I'm curious now, how does it configure Ninja? Well, but you can, when it runs the make program, you can specify environment variables on the command line, right? I thought you could. I could be wrong. I don't remember setting up any environment variables for Ninja status, though. All right, let me do this off screen, just to make sure I don't leak anything. That would be env, right? Or it'd be set. I could spell it correctly. Okay. So I didn't have any environment variables with the word status or Ninja in it. Just to make sanity check, I checked, and Cmake is in the path environment variable. So I don't have any environment variables set up or Ninja status or anything. Weird. Maybe it's just something that Cmake tools does when it creates the environment for the child process, because it's probably launching Cmake as a child process, right? Or it's probably running Ninja as a child process. Thanks for the follow, Tim Spurgeons. It's one of those mysteries. I'll look it up later. All right, so that is checked in, right? And then I can do git stash pop to get our work in progress and build it and see it fail again. That was an auth player, right? Yep. Right. So we're going to require a recaptcha now for requesting a password reset. Is it? It's an auth. Yeah, I keep forgetting. I actually had a bookmark for it. Yeah, here. All right, so here we're going to do the same thing that we did. Is it? Wait a minute. This doesn't look quite right. Yeah, this is... Where am I? On players changed? That's old. Looks like I had a bunch of old bookmarks set. Yeah, and then I lost my other bookmark. Of course I lost it. Let's find it again. So that would be initiate, right? Here we go. Yes, so let's bookmark that, and let's just capture all. Actually, I probably don't need a bookmark because I'm just going to copy paste here. Paste. All right. So we do the Captcha verification. For bad input, just hang up on them, I guess. I guess we'll do the same thing. Oh no, we don't want that. So what is failure for a password reset? I guess it's just this. We pretend that it was sent, right? And then it'll just never get an email. Failure. Right. Password was sent. Sure. Yeah, we sent the password. This is so that if a bot comes in and just fails the recaptcha, we don't want to tell the bot that they failed. We want to tell the bot the same thing if they succeeded or failed. We want to log that it's a failure. And then success is we do this stuff, where we actually set up a token to be emailed out and all that good stuff. So that's this. Indented. And we're good, right? Right, we have to go back through auth to get to there. Build it. Now, did it pass the test? Yay! How about the other one? Yay! Let's run them all, just to make sure. That was fairly painless. Uh-oh, I broke something. I broke it! It's getting cold in here. Are you guys warm where you are? Because I'm not quite warm. I need to put on a sweater or something. Notify client when password... Oh, right. Yeah, these tests are broken because the tests themselves are not set up right anymore because we changed the requirements. So that is in auth player. So this test is checking... Is this part of the setup is to request it. So we have to actually do the recaptcha here. Actually, so I'm going to copy that and go back. Whoops. Paste. Today's a warm day. Ah, wish I was where you were. Isn't it crazy? Almost anything you do with a computer, you can simulate with just a bunch of NAND gates. Well, fundamentally, computers are made out of logic gates, so it makes sense to me. If you want to be super paranoid, make the success branch take as long as the fail branch. That's a good point. Atch10? I hope I'm saying your name right. I will put that in my notes. That is a great idea that I want to follow up on later. Thank you for that. I'll make that another work item. Because that sounds like a bit of work on its own. There's a Cmake plugin for VS Code you'd probably use that sets the... So I'm using Cmake tools. Oh, I see what you're saying. It could be a configuration thing. How do I get that? Ah, that's right. They removed the defaults. I want to get those back somehow. But it could be, yeah. We'll just look for Cmake. Build environment? Okay, the default is blank. Yeah, who knows? It could be one of these. Test environment? No. Let's look at the link you just sent. And they get it from what? Merging from something else. Yeah, what is that interpreted from or with? So I guess basically it's hard coded, and these are replaced by whatever is interpreting that environment variable. Okay. It's hard coded. You can't change it, or you can if I added that key specifically to my right. If it might merge in and overwrite that. So you could basically that's the default, and you can overwrite it yourself if you want. Right? Makes sense. Thank you for looking that up, Nui. I like the defaults for the most part. It means I don't have to spend time figuring that stuff out. Yeah, replaced by Ninja itself. I see. Yeah. So the plugin is just doing a nice thing and setting up a nice default for us. I want to bookmark that in case I lose where I was. Right, this one. I need this part. Let's bookmark this just in case. Yeah, I need... I don't know actually why I have that, because I didn't need it down here. I don't need that. That can just be that. To simulate a success, and then that's just because it's part of the setup. So the other test that failed probably had the same problem. So let's put that in a clipboard and then go down to this other test. It's actually above here. Yeah, it's the same thing. So it's this takes over that code, right? That. There we go. Okay, this is still broken. Oh, right. Well, it's passing along the Recaptcha. I guess we can. Yeah, so this particular test is testing that the request to do a password reset is forwarded to the leader of the cluster. So right now it's forwarding the entire message. So if I included a Recaptcha, that gets forwarded. It doesn't necessarily need to be, because we're not verifying it again, but that's what it is. That's what what the test is. That's what it's doing right now. If I didn't want it to, I could just remove that line and then fix the code. That makes sense? I'll leave it the way it is. Run them all. Prepare for success. Be optimistic. That as soon as it goes all green, I can hit the button. So this is now requiring a Recaptcha verification for getting a password reset token. Right? A coordinator. Require Recaptcha to request password reset. It's all green, ready to go. Oh, hands are cold. Okay. We're done with that card. Yay. What's next? How about this one? This one's not that hard. Do not append a change profile command if no changes are actually made. So right now the only thing we test is changing the password. So that would be a profile test revolving around changing the password, or not password, email. Yes, so let's duplicate this one, and what we'll do is we'll change profile appended on change profile. Change profile not appended on change profile with no actual change. Let me change this, with actual change. So here the email is changed because the initial email is not alex@example.com, I think. I should verify that though. What is Alex's? So that's test user, right? Its initial email address. Oh, which is that? Okay, so this is a good check. So really, it shouldn't be. Let's say new Alex or alex.new. That will actually append it to as a changed profile. This one, if we don't change it, can I get it back out without duplicating it? How do I do this? Add test user does what? So I could look up players, right? Okay, I guess I'll just do it. There's nothing for me to copy, so I have to do it myself. Whoops. Clicked on the wrong thing there. So no actual change will be new email, not changed. We need to get, so it's players. Intellisense broken. Damn you, Intellisense. I have to look it up myself. So players. There's a way to get a player. Right, it's just indexed by username. Alex. And that gives me back a copy, so it's just email, right? Player record has email in it. Like that. See, my workaround for Intellisense breaking like this is I have to rebuild, which takes about 5 minutes. So I could do it if I was like going to describe something or show something for 5 minutes. I could have it build in the background. It's chipping away at my enjoyment of VS Code and making me want to go back to Visual Studio, quite frankly. Wish they fixed that soon. Anyway, this will not actually change the email, so what do I expect? I shouldn't see a changed profile. Right, so let me put a bookmark there. I'm going to go look for initial entries. Yes, this code. So we're going to figure out how many journal entries we started with, and then we'll look at any new ones added and expect that they're not equal to change profile. It's actually the same code, right? There we go. I don't think I need that. And a new email became this one. There's no change key. All right, there we go. Okay, let's run them. Cool. So, demonstrating the bug right now, in that it appends a change profile even if we didn't really change anything. So the fix is to go into where the change is requested, on change profile where it's requested, and we see if it actually is different. Where do we actually do the other check? Was it on change profile here? I think it was here. But, oh, wait a minute. You know what? I see it. There's a problem. This is being set before we verify that the change is correct. Really, I think I should move all of this to here. Oh, wait a minute. Where are we? Yeah. No. I'm lost. Right, this is set expecting that it'll go through, and then we can return the response once it is, but it might not go through. Do you use the mini map to the right? Sometimes, because it's a nice grab thing for scrolling. I don't like sometimes that scroll bars are so narrow because I'll accidentally grab the right edge of the window and resize the window. This is a nice grabbable area. Makes me feel better. It doesn't distract me too much. Sometimes I'll see, based off the pattern, that I have bad code. Like, this is bad code, right? This ought to be cleaned up into maybe, instead of a if-else chain to do something more intelligent. So when I see patterns, like visual patterns in the code, they kind of help to point out to me where I might need to refactor later. But yeah, just those two uses I find are the only ones. Nice scrollable bar and helping me find bad code. I need to remember to come back, and this right here at this point is where we really should be doing the checking here. Actually, and we don't need to do that until this line. Okay, one thing at a time. Let me put that in a note so I don't forget. That's sort of a bug. So need to go back and move forbidden key checks in on change profile to before it is forwarded to the leader. Because otherwise that flag is going to get set and shouldn't be. Alright, for now. Too many bookmarks I don't need anymore. Need that one. Don't need that one. Where is this one? Don't need that one. I want that one. Don't need that one. Okay, good. There's the test and there's the code for the test. So yeah, right here. We will check to see if it actually changed. Hold on. The way it's changed though, I wonder if we should forward this to players. Because it has its own logic for matching keys with values. Key with value, right? Maybe I should delegate it to players. Yeah, let's do that. So here we'll just say if up here, if players is changed. And we'll just pass the same message changes. And we need to give it the user's name, right? So that's client username. Let's negate that. So if it's not a change, we'll just return early. I guess we'll just say that the change profile result was a success. That is done where? Here? No. I don't remember where it is. I think it's done on... Not there. Here. When the player is actually changed. So we'll just say immediately that it changed. Sure, why not? There's no actual change. We say, sure, it changed. And that goes directly back to the original WebSocket. And then we return early. There we go. Success, but it didn't actually need to change anything. So now I just need to make that part of players. Actually, then, really I should make that its own unit test at the same time, right? Because players has its own set of unit tests. Players tests. Let's add that. So, players tests. No change. What are we calling it? Is change. Do I have a test where I have a lot of test vectors here? It doesn't look like I do. We can make it here. So, struct test vector. JSON value changes, bool is change, right? And then we have static const vector of test vectors. I know I'm overloading the word vector, I apologize, but I don't know what else to name it. Well, yeah. I guess it's plural. Each one of these is a vector, and then it's a vector of vectors. Different kind of vector. So the idea is I want to have different kinds of things, like email, whatever this player setup was. Player 1 email, right? That should not be a change. That's a false, right? But if I change it to something that's not player 1's email, So like Alice new. Then it is a change. Let's keep that for now. This table allows me to add other kinds of changes to test later. So for const auto test vector in test vectors, actually if it changes it, it affects the future vectors. I have to keep that in mind. Oh, it's not change for all. Oh no, it's right. It doesn't change it. We're just calling the is changes, right? Is change. So expect equal test vector dot is change. I think my hands are getting cold, and that's increasing my error rate on the keyboard. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking with it. Okay, so it's test vector changes, right? And then we need the username. So let's, should we include the username? So that's player one name. Test vector username, comma. There we go. Oh, what did I do wrong now? It's changed. Oh, right. It didn't make it a member yet. Players.hpp. Let's add it here. Because it's going to start out much the same, only now we're going to pass a JSON value. Changes. Check if the given changes to the given player would actually change anything. Here's where I can copy this. It holds information on what profile fields would be changed to what values. Indication of whether or not this given changes to the given player would actually change anything is returned. All right. Let's go to where that's defined and add its brother here. And it's going to have a similar... Intellisense is breaking. I think we're going to do the same kind of thing here. So I'll probably turn this into a table at some point. A table with two fields in it. A change checker and then an actual change. But for now, I'll just make it an if-else. Just to get my test passing, and then I'll come and refactor this. So if it is this, then return player.email equals that. If it's that, then return, yeah, player auth token equals that. That, right? Else return false. I think that's right. Let's see. Uh-oh. Oh, because that needs to tell it to interpret it as a string. Still didn't like No, it's okay now. Yeah, good. Good. So before I test that, let me go to the players test and run those. Nope, didn't work. And I don't know which vectors, so that I should include here, right? Let's have an I. So let's do that. Plus I. I can see which one failed. They both failed. Did I get it backwards? Oh, I did get it backwards. It's not equal. Not equal. And then, yeah, I think the default is fine. Cool. All right, now profile tests. Yeah, I'm not surprised I broke some of these. Profile tests. Hey, it's bug found. Hello, bug found. You have been finding bugs for 2 months now on my channel. I appreciate it. Appreciate your support. Thank you very much for the sub. All right, so change profile. All right, it's not really changing it, is it? Oh, hold on. This test should have worked. What's wrong? Expected true. Oh, no, I'm in the wrong test. Line 400. Oh, I think it's because it's not really changing anything. Yeah, the new email is not actually new. So now it has to be new. So it's the old test was wrong. It actually should have a real new email, not the same one. Okay, it's probably the same thing here, right? 366. Let's expand everything here. Yeah, new email needs to be new. Blink. Okay, sanity check. Run everything again. In the meantime, I'm going to presume it worked. So this test is do not actually make changes to the profile if nothing was changed, right? Players. Actually, let's check in the player stuff first. Players. Add is changed method. And here we're going to use it. Oh, hold on. I need to amend the last commit to, I had the wrong files. These 3, right? There's the API, there's the implementation, there's the test. Cool. Now the new commit is the coordinator. This is really an optimization. Change profile, right? Do not append change profile. Spell correctly, please, Raimu. Do not append change profile command if no actual change is going to be made. Fix old tests that expected changes to the profile, but didn't actually request changes, real changes. There we go. Push that, and we're done with the next card. This is how we do work. Even though sometimes it's tedious, we get through one card at a time. At the end of the year, we'll have a game, right? Okay. 2 players simultaneously change their names to the same name. The first player's record is destroyed. Yeah, we don't want that. Oh, actually, I think this requires this to be done first because we need the cluster to be aware of who's logged in. Yes. Cluster needs to be aware of who's logged in. It means I should make it part of the, oh, this is going to be complicated. This is going to be part of the journal. Gonna kind of disrupt some of my poorly written tests before. I guess we'll just do it. So Disallow multiple logins from the same player. So as a side effect of this, now every server in the cluster will be aware of who's logged in where, and that then we can do something like not allow. Well, actually, no, they are different changes, aren't they? Maybe I don't need to do this first. This one we can do by before actually changing a player's name, we can reserve the name, right? We can create a placeholder for the new name first, wait for that until that's committed to the cluster, then merge it with the old record, right? The two different commands? Or do I even need that? Maybe I don't need that. Maybe we'll just let whoever changes have it work first, and then the second one just gets rejected late. Yeah, I think I'll do that way. Do I have any other notes in here? No. All right. So changing the user name right now, I think it's just because it's too naive. Is that profile? I can't remember. My eyes look scary. What's wrong with the green screen? What's going on with that green screen? Oh, yeah. That's because there is blue. Because actually it's a blue screen behind me. How do I show that? Go to my camera, and I turn off the chroma key. Look at that. That's what it really looks like. I have like a little shape cut out just to because the blue screen isn't that big, but it's blue. So when I'm showing something on screen that's blue, like Trello, I start to get the evil eyes. Look at that. I'll have to just not look at blue things. Or I need to get a real green screen and then not look at green things. Or I should get a studio and then not have to have a filter, a screen at all, right? All right, anyway. Yeah, my eyes will be evil, especially if it gets dark, because then the camera gets very difficult to filter out. Oh boy, I haven't seen that emote before. That's an interesting one. Or get contacts, yeah. I tried contacts before, but I have astigmatism. So that means my eyes are not spherical. They are slightly egg-shaped. And that means contacts have to be aligned just right. If they rotate just slightly, everything is blurry. Really maddening to do computer work with that. So yeah, I'm just damaged. I'm waiting for technology to catch up and make me some contacts that I can actually use. All right, so I'm looking for username change. Here we go. So I just have one test for it? I guess so. I only have one test for changing the username. So if you ask for your username to be changed, then it goes ahead and changes it, and we expect it's changed. Okay, so we want to prevent you from changing your name to something that's already being used, right? So how would I do that? Add 2 test users? You know what I could do is just default the name here. And just to make this not confusing, I can just call this one, not that one. Let's fix this one first. Username here. Just make this one say player. Okay, now the default player will be Alex, and then I can add 2 users, right? Alex and Bob. And we're going to change it to Pepe, right? Oh, I changed the implementation, but not the interface. Actually, then that means that this can't have the default repeated, right? Test user. Default goes there. All right. We can add, so let's leave that. Did I duplicate this test already? No. Need two tests, one that succeeds and one that fails. Username change successfully. Username change failed. Name already taken. Alright, so here we'll try to change to Bob. Login as Alex. Try to change it to Bob. This should not happen. We should actually expect... Do we expect a message back? Yeah, these tests didn't check to make sure that a successful message change was returned, did it? Yeah, let's fix that. That shouldn't happen. And I should expect a response back. The same as if a profile change was made, right? Yeah. Where is it? It's like profile change result. Here it is. Yes, we'll expect this. So change successfully. They are logged in and we should expect a response. So they will get the initial login. And then this will cause this. And then we don't have that third one. Okay. Down here, though, we will make... Let's do the same check here to make sure that the name didn't change. Still logged in, but their name is still Alex. Right? And they receive that they did log in, but this should be a false, and we should have a reason, right? Error, right? Let's say username taken. I'd have the default Minecraft characters. I use Alice, Bob, and Carol a lot because those are from, yeah, like we said, crypto. Actually, the first time I saw Alice, Bob, and Carol was in voice over IP standards. But I think you're right. They're even older than that. They're from crypto. I can start using names of viewers in chat. Can't change to Not Zane because Not Zane's taken. All right. This is ready to go, right? It will fail because it will blow away Bob, which we will not like to see in the real game. We don't want people to destroy other... we don't want someone to destroy someone else's account just by taking over their name. And there it is. So it failed because it was a success. We destroyed Bob in the process. Oops. Let's prevent that. Profile. And it's on... Is it? Yeah, it's changed profile, right? Yes. So, okay. This actually leads back into this other thing. I need to go back and remove that. Sort of, because it's just more checks here. It needs to... no, hold on. It needs to be done at the... It needs to be done at the leader. Sorry. So it does need to be done here. It's just we need to have we need to have a failure path. What about non-English characters like A with dots above? My game should support that. Although I'm not sure about... Actually, no, I'm not allowing that right now. Where did I do a check for that? It's like, is username acceptable, right? Where was that? Oh, no, I don't have a check for that. I have an is email address acceptable, but do I not have an is... I have an is password strong... Oh, here we go. Is username acceptable? Where did I use that? Did I forget to use that when you change your name? Oh, that's a bug. It only checks on register. It doesn't check on changing your name. Ooh. Thank you, Nui. You helped me realize I have a bug. Fix bug in not checking the acceptance of a username when changing username. It is a bug. But just trying to stay focused on the goal right now, which is that the should not be able to take over someone else's account. So it's on change profile. Right, when it gets to the leader, here's where it can check, because the leader has the most up-to-date of everything, right? Actually, technically it doesn't, because we append it. It could be appended to the log, but not committed yet. So really, the ultimate judge is the executor. It's only when it gets to here and it asks the players, maybe the players should have a check. Right? Before assigning it, it should check if there already is one with that name. Whoa. Here's where it actually does the rename. It just forcibly takes the player's record and puts it into the under the new name. But if we checked it there and if we had a path to reject it, that would probably be the best. Shave that dirty Sanchez? No, sorry. I like it. All right, so because there are two ways to reproduce that in Unicode. Oh, yeah, I was going to look at that, right? What is acceptable? I already forgot what it is. It's under players, right? Is username acceptable? Yes. Oh, it's an auth. Yeah, I'm actually being pretty restrictive on what you can have in a username. Capital letters, lowercase letters, 0 through 9, and you can have an underscore if it is, what, not the first character? No, okay, it's allowing underscores, but there are certain names that are blacklisted, and, right, I think the underscores aren't counted towards name length, and you have to have at least 2 non-underscore characters in the name, and they have to be in that set. So it's kind of restricted now. It's not going to handle Unicode. It's going to reject any kind of Unicode. Oh, here's Adam. Thank you for the raid, Adam. How was your stream? Welcome people from Adam's stream. So I take it, Adam, that there was no one playing Botland? We have to get more people to play Botland so you can host Botland players, don't we? That's a lot of Botlands. A lot of Botlands there. No one was playing? I could play it. Would you guys like to see me play Botland for a while? Or should I continue working? Yes? Hell yeah? Okay. Yeah, I can take a break from work, play some Botland. Why not?